It's Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. Kamala Harris makes history. So long to Justin Trudeau, and what to make of the Las Vegas bombing next on the AM Update.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
So there is Kamala Harris. She promised yesterday, and she followed through on making sure everything went smoothly in the certification of the 2024 election. She spent the entirety of her presidential campaign, of course, labeling Donald Trump as a threat to democracy, and officially certified President-elect Donald Trump's election on Monday. As vice president, she also, of course, serves as president of the Senate, leaving her with the responsibility of certifying electoral results despite her humiliating electoral loss. Kamala Harris said and followed through on certifying the election. Don't let, though, the Democrats' virtue signaling here fool you, though. Yesterday was the first time that not a single congressional Democrat objected to the victory of a Republican presidential candidate since 1988. And Kamala Harris made history there. She shattered the glass ceiling. She is the first woman and person of color to certify the results of an election that they got trounced in. So congratulations to Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, up north, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, announced yesterday he's resigning.
As party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process.
Yesterday, you heard Pierre Poilievre, the opposition party leader, the Conservative Party leader, lay out to Jordan Peterson of the Daily Wire just what the landscape is in Canada as far as politics go. He released this video message yesterday, and he's skeptical about what the Liberals have up their sleeves.
Canadians desperate to turn the page on this dark chapter in our history might be relieved today that Justin Trudeau is finally leaving. But what has really changed? Every Liberal MP in power today and every potential Liberal leadership contender fighting for the top job helped Justin Trudeau break the country over the last 9 years. All Liberal politicians actively worked to pass into law the job-killing inflationary carbon tax, a tax that Carbon Tax Carney endorsed in his book. All supported a law quadrupling the tax over the next 5 years. All voted for or actively supported Trudeau's out-of-control spending, debt, and immigration.
So that's Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party in Canada. He's very skeptical about what the Liberals up there have up their sleeves. Nevertheless, according to betting markets, Pierre Poilievre actually is the favorite, 92% chance, according to Polymarket, of being the next Prime Minister of Canada. Boy, Joe Biden is burning some bridges on his way out the door. Here he is at the White House over the weekend.
My being the oldest president, I know more world leaders than any one of you ever met in your whole life.
Yikes. I don't know what he was so upset about. He was just meeting with a bunch of his acolytes at the White House. I think that was maybe at a ceremony either before or after the Presidential Medal of Freedom we talked about yesterday, but he was very upset with the press there. Ohio Congressman Mike Turner went on CBS the other day. He is the chair of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and he was asked by Margaret Brennan if he believes there are any terror cells active in the United States right now.
Well, I think the issue of cells, and you and I were talking about that at the beginning of the show, are there individuals that are affiliated with ISIS and terrorist groups and organizations that have crossed the border, that are inside the United States? Director Wray, FBI director, has said so. We certainly have intelligence that says so. I agree with his assessment. Jim has also seen it. He's testified before our committee publicly of that fact. Those individuals are working in conjunction with ISIS with the intention of harming Americans. The director has said it directly.
They are known to U.S. intelligence and law enforcement.
And we are working diligently to try to take them down, to prevent them from doing so. And that's why the director is publicly saying such. And that's what the new administration is going to be handed.
So that is the chair of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Ohio Congressman Mike Turner, saying in no uncertain terms, there are terror cells working and active in the United States right now. Get ready for a hot few months as this incoming administration takes over. A resident in Manhattan has admitted guilt in U.S. federal court for his involvement in operating a secret Chinese police station in New York. The resident has been identified as Chen Jinping, a U.S. citizen who helped with administrative duties at the secretive station in Manhattan's Chinatown in 2022. U.S. prosecutors stated that the station was established by officials from China's Fuzhou Municipal Public Security Bureau, a division of its Ministry of Public Security, and was used to threaten and silence opponents of the Chinese government in New York. Chen's plea in Brooklyn on Wednesday marks the first instance of someone involved in these overseas police outposts being held accountable in court. Over 100 Chinese police stations are believed to have been set up in cities globally. And then there's this from the Wall Street Journal, which published an expose in the last few days about the extent of China's cyber capabilities. Jake Sullivan, that's the current national security advisor, reportedly secretly revealed at the White House in 2023, this is according to the Wall Street Journal, that Chinese hackers had gained the ability to shut down dozens of U.S. ports, power grids, and other infrastructure targets at will. The journal also says 2 massive hacking operations upended the West's understanding of what Beijing wants while revealing the astonishing skill, level, and stealth of its keyboard warriors. The Wall Street Journal goes on to say that U.S. security officials believe Chinese infrastructure intrusions by Volt Typhoon, that's a Chinese hacking group, are at least parts aimed at disrupting Pacific military supply lines and otherwise impeding America's ability to respond to a future conflict with China, including, of course, an invasion of Taiwan. Those 2 stories came out within just about a day or 2 of each other. As optimistic as I am about this incoming administration, there's a lot of trouble out there, just looking to rear its head at any opportunity that it gets. China, I think we have long underestimated China's tech ability. I mean, we're letting them rip basically all of our tech off by letting them into our universities. And now they've got access to all of our critical infrastructure. I'm still unclear of what there were multiple massive telecommunications outages last year. Both AT&T and Verizon, I think on multiple instances, had some massive nationwide outages. Still haven't gotten an answer on what that is. And now it sounds like we might have our answer. Switching gears quite a bit here. Here is Elder Tom Patton of Grace Community Church over the weekend giving an update on Pastor John MacArthur's health. He's had some recent health issues that's kept him out of the pulpit. And here's that Elder Tom Patton giving an update.
Those who attend Grace Church or follow the ministry of our pastor are already aware that he suffered a series of health issues that kept him out of the pulpit and required 3 surgeries in the second half of 2024. His recovery has been slower than expected, with occasional setbacks affecting his heart, lungs, and kidneys. The doctors have not yet discovered any single root cause for these diverse troubles, and John has been hospitalized for the past 2 weeks, undergoing tests and treatments. So please pray for him and for the physicians that are handling the case, for the physicians that they will identify a suitable treatment or treatments, and for John that he will recover strength and health enough to resume public ministry. Pastor John and his family covet your prayers. Please pray earnestly and steadfastly. Our pastor desires to return to his beloved church soon.
So that is Elder Tom Patton of Grace Community Church providing an update on the health of John MacArthur, who is a pastor who has done amazing work. God has used him in some pretty powerful ways, his ministry and his teaching himself, and I'd be one of those people impacted by his teaching. Please keep him, his church, and his family in your prayers. And finally, air analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. My idea today, let's make Occam's razor great again. I think you have to start applying Occam's razor. What is Occam's razor? I'll put it the way I describe it. Whatever explanation for a mystery or a problem you don't know the answer to, that requires the fewest number of logical leaps is probably the one That is correct. Let's make Occam's razor great again. Now, what am I talking about here? It's the Las Vegas bomber story. Now, setting aside the fact, we're sitting there on Wednesday afternoon, New Year's Day. The Sugar Bowl had just gotten canceled in New Orleans. And we were being told that there was an electric truck rented from Trudeau that was driven into a crowd of people on Bourbon Street. And then later in the day, just a few hours later, there was an electric truck, this time a cyber truck, that was rented from Trudeau that blew up outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Now, it seems like this is not connected at all now. But what are the odds of that? So we're sitting there, we're fog of war going on all over the place here. We find out later that the guy who allegedly rented that cyber truck was from Colorado, an active duty Green Beret by the name of Matthew Livelsberger. Again, the plot kind of thickens there. Active duty. We learned pretty quickly that he was focused on drones. We've been talking a lot about drones in recent days, recent weeks. The plot thickened even more. And then, we got as thick as concrete with this plot when Sam Shoemate, is a guy I'd never heard of prior to last Thursday or Friday, joined the Sean Ryan Show. And I have heard of the Sean Ryan Show. I've listened to a couple of episodes. And from the outside looking in, I haven't listened to every single episode. Sean Ryan is a guy who's not a joke. He seems to take his content pretty seriously. Again, that's just my perception. I could be wrong. So Sam Shoemate goes on the Sean Ryan Show, explains that on New Year's Eve, or a few days before New Year's Eve, he had received an email from an active duty S-10, that's a rank in the Army, from an active duty soldier, somebody purportedly being an active duty soldier, explaining what these drones were and what these UAPs really were, that they were craft that had some sort of gravitic propulsion devices, essentially otherworldly technology. That's why they're able to float around so quickly and get away so quickly and evade cameras and eyeballs so quickly. This purported soldier told Sam Shoemate in an email that that's what those drones were. Also that he was deployed in Afghanistan and they participated in war crimes a few years ago. Okay? So this Sam Shoemate just dismissed this, told the guy, I have no way of verifying that. You're right, that's a big deal. No way of verifying that. Kind of put it off to the side, forgot about it. 3 days later, one of his buddies, Sam Shoemate's buddy, saying, hey, do you know this Matthew Livelsberger? And all of a sudden, he remembers that email, and he checked the name on the email, and sure enough, purportedly, allegedly, it was Matthew Livelsberger. So the plot now is as thick as concrete. Authorities are telling us that Livelsberger was found with a bullet in the head prior to the explosion of those fireworks and gasoline. Oh, that's another thing. Apparently, a Green Beret has less of an understanding of explosives than an IT specialist in the Army does. That's that Jabbar dude, the terrorist in New Orleans, who I told you about yesterday, had that rare explosives. Those rare explosives that thankfully were not detonated, but that's an aside. Because the Cybertruck exploded thanks to some gallons of gasoline, racing fuel, camping fuel, and fireworks. Also had a story going back to Matthew Livelsberger. New York Post said his wife separated from him a few days before this happened. Here's the thing I can't get past. When you take everything that I've said so far, yeah, it boggles the mind, but especially when you throw in the story about the wife accusing him of cheating and separating, it just kind of seems like this guy had a psychiatric break. Kind of seems like that. And just went postal. He was purportedly, according to his uncle, a huge supporter of Donald Trump. Liked Elon Musk. So why blow up a Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower? But even then, just a psychiatric break. But there's one thing in this story that I can't get over. And this has been confirmed by multiple people who are in Signal chats. This Signal is an encryption app. You can send encrypted messages to other people. It's unhackable, supposedly. And to ensure that you're actually talking to the person that you are talking to, there's something called a safe number. And you have to punch that number in every time you change SIM cards, change phones, things like that. This has been confirmed, as I understand it, from multiple people who are in Signal chats with Matthew Leibelsberger. His safe number changed after the explosion. I can't get over that part of the story. So now there's like 6 different explanations for what could have happened here. What he said in that manifesto or email to Sam Shoemate that got exposed and propagated on the Sean Ryan show, that stuff could be true. And somebody in our own government tried to frame him as some sort of crazy Trump-supporting nutter. Because allegedly, the Las Vegas Police Department produced a couple of different manifestos that read completely different than the email to Sam Shoemate reads. Veterans take up arms and go story. It's completely different tone. I think it was written by somebody else. Somebody on our own government could have tried to frame him. Somebody in a foreign government could have tried to frame him. I remember the story from earlier last year. Some Chechens, part of a shady utility company out east, owned by some Russian businessmen. I don't know how that happens. One of these Chechens was shot and killed on the property of a special forces operator. He was shot and killed trespassing. He had no high visibility jacket on. He had no utility equipment on him or in his vehicle. All he had was pretty high quality photography equipment. So it could be something like that. If foreign governments can get their tentacles on the property of our special forces, yeah. There's like 6 different possibilities here. There's a not zero possibility that Matthew Leibelsberger is still alive in somewhere. But here's why I want to make Occam's razor great again. Stories like these are going to make the truth of what happened, harder and harder to discern. So, we need to have some sort of North Star when we're trying to discern these stories. Here's what I want to say. Let's make Occam's razor great again. I think it's probably a 40 to 45% chance. This is the biggest chance. I think it's a 40 to 45% chance that Matthew Leibelsberger had a psychiatric break and went postal. What does that mean, though? That doesn't mean that the other 55% is all one possibility. Like I said, there could be 6 different possibilities split up amongst that 55%. It's just the 40 to 45% chance that he went postal after a psychiatric break. That's still the largest percentage chance. There's a 55% chance that something else happened, and something else is crazy and nuts, no matter how you slice it. But Occam's razor says that that's probably what happened. Now, I'm not going to hold that in a closed fist. If more information comes out, then I'm more than willing to actually change my mind on this. But good grief. These stories, you talk about epistemology, how we discern what truth is. It's getting harder and harder to do by the day. So let's make Occam's razor great again. That'll do it for a Tuesday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.